Jamaican men can be extremely charming, and it's not an act. They genuinely love their women and will do almost anything for them. But there's another side to their charming personalities that can make them extremely unhinged. For Karen Rainford, her common law relationship of almost 10 years had come to an end with consistent arguments and physical abuse. She had no other choice but to choose herself for the first time. At 34 years of age, 6 children to care for, with very little education, she lived in the inner city, or ghetto as we often call it in Jamaica. Hampstead Park, also known as Backbush, is a marginalized quarter community, heavily populated, with the typical aesthetics of zinced fences, board dwellings, unregulated water and electricity, and no proper waste management system. Most of the dwellers will use the adjacent bushes or build pit latrines for their excreta. It is one of those communities that successive ruling parties will engage quickly with promises of a better life for themselves and children. They also see these as prime areas for political mileage, as they know the educational background of the majority. The Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation, KSAC, which is a regulatory body that oversees urban planning, public health and sanitation, as well as general infrastructure maintenance, condemned it in 2012 as a health hazard, citing that it was unsuitable for human habitation. This was as a result of the high infestation of rats that had taken over the community. Prior to what was to be unraveled for this hardened community, the father of 4 of Karen's youngest children was chased away when he had used a knife to inflict wounds to her body. This was just the beginning of what she would later have to endure on top of her already unbearable living conditions. It was common to hear quarrels and fighting between the couples, but on February 17th, 2014, it was different. Just after 2 a.m. in the morning, the children's father, who had made it a habit of lurking nearby in the early mornings, disconnected the light bulbs so as not to be seen before carrying out this egregious act. Karen could be heard with piercing screams while he attacked her repeatedly with a knife, inflicting several wounds to her body, allegedly while the children watched. It could be considered an overkill when he then took her body to the yard and severed her head. He walked calmly from the community with her head in hand and tossed it in a nearby field. It was at daybreak that the community, realizing that the screams had subsided, ventured out to investigate. Living in the ghetto in Jamaica, it is common code to see and blind, hear and deaf. Many times, out of fear, residents of these communities will not intervene or call the police as a sign of loyalty to others and area leaders, even if the results are to their own detriment. In addition, these communities are not given the same urgency as persons from a different socio-economic background. They came out like the plague that infested their living spaces some years ago, populating the space quickly in which the murder, hours before, had taken place. Some of the onlookers were the very sisters of the killer, who lived some distance away, overwhelmed with emotions of what had taken place to another woman like themselves. Some even stated that they believed he was demented or demonic leading up to what he did, as he was seen several times in the community just sitting in silence, yet no one made a call or a report to the police. He fled the scene quickly before they could have arrived. Back in 2014, the Jamaica Constabulary Force was not equipped nor trained to handle matters of domestic violence, even though the Domestic Violence Act had passed since 1996. Women, and to a lesser extent men, would not report matters of domestic abuse, as the woman would be told, "That a man and woman story, go make it up with your man." Men, on the other hand, would be ridiculed. Many women, even in Upper St. Andrew, home to many affluent Jamaicans, would oftentimes delay or never report any abuse by their husbands or intimate partners. It was never just a concern for those women who lived below the poverty line. Jamaica's problems are even worse, as it is compounded by beliefs and traditions, where 2 out of 10 girls ages 15 to 19 thinks it's okay for a husband to hit his wife or partner. Karen was left at the mercy of the father for children and abandoned by the community in which she lived. Although having the courage to leave an abusive situation, she never got the support of persons who are elected to ensure that systems are put in place so every citizen may feel protected. Many of these inner city communities are never short of young, able-bodied men that could have come to her defense, but no one did. Even with the knowledge that they had, seeing him lurking for months within the community, no one came to her defense. Why wasn't the suspect held for the police while he walked away calmly from the community? You may ask. If you're thinking of the time factor, it is never an issue in the inner city because it never sleeps. Could it be that they were protecting him? No one really knows. Today, the Jamaica Constabulary Force is better trained in dealing with matters of domestic violence with the help of the United Nations Development Fund via the Spotlight Initiative. They have set up domestic violence intervention centers across Jamaica as an extension at most police stations. They offer training to police officers, empowering them to be more empathetic and understanding in cases involving domestic violence, all while offering counseling, referrals, law enforcement protection, follow-ups, and home visits. Karen leaves behind 4 young children from the union, ages 11, 9, 5, and 3, who are all now in the custody of their maternal grandmother. They are being sponsored by caring individuals and business owners who have pledged their support in continuing their education and well-being. At the time of the murders, 3 of the children were seen walking in a daze at the very spot where their mother was brutally killed. It is most unfortunate that Karen lost her life before she too could have benefited from the protection offered by the domestic violence intervention centers. Her common law partner, Desiree Barrett, also known as Hopeton, has never been caught. For more crime stories within Jamaica and the Jamaican diaspora, please subscribe, like, and share. This is Marsha. Thank you for watching more of What You Love on Island Crimes.